So in this class, we'll be looking into this Docker container network. Previously, we looked into the Docker volume and rest of the stuff. For Docker container network, you should have the little bit idea about IP addresses. Okay, how these IP addresses work. So let me take you through a little introduction of this IP addresses and all. So if I do CIDR dot XYZ, there is a website, and press enter, you will get a CIDR. What is the full form of CIDR?
मुझे पता है क्या होता है, फुल फॉर्म नहीं पता, पर मतलब वो एक
Okay,
आईपी एड्रेस रेंज देता है ना।
correct. The range is being
एड्रेस।
decided by this
हम्म।
this digit. Okay, and this is your IP addresses.
यस।
So what it basically does, it initially contain all zero. Okay, if it is zero, so tell me the how many total byte it contains of this IP address. How many total? Is this byte or bit?
8 8 8 8
So each this one
32।
is 4 byte. Okay, in
ओके।
which 8 bits is being 8
हम्म।
bit is being allocated. Okay, so total you have
32।
32 bits. Okay, so the maximum range it can start from 0. Minimum range starts from 0 and maximum it goes till 255.
यस।
Okay, if you see the total maximum range is 255, 255 and then 240. So if I do 255, I'll keep it 0 as well. This one. 0 means you have the power to use all the IP addresses. But in organization, generally what happens? This is the maximum. You need to write. So if you see 255 means all 11111. Each bit can either 0 or 1. So remember, the very first, that is 000, is known as the net mask. Okay, which is the base IP address. And the maximum is known as broadcast IP addresses. Broadcast means it will be open to everyone. Okay, so when it is 0, the range is 0. Now what I can do, if I want these two blocks to be blocked, means nobody can change this one. Generally in the organization, things start from suppose 192, 192, and this one will be 70. So further changes will be done only here. This will be 0 and this will be 0. So what do I want? I want IP addresses starting from 192.172. Okay, so that these two shouldn't get touched. No matter how many VMs I create, these two should not get touched. So what does it mean? I'll just 8 plus 8, 16. So I'll block 16 bits. So I have blocked 16 bits. Now the only available is these two. So the total count you have available 65,536. So people in your organization, if they are under 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, go with this count. But if they are above 1 lakh, then remove one more. Okay, now I'll see. Okay. Hello. Hey, Virat, are you there? Hello.
Yeah, hi Akash. Hi Sujata.
Yeah, hi.
Hey।
No worries. See, we are discussing about the IP addresses, which is basically nothing but it's 0.0.0.0 till the maximum range goes up to 255, 255, and 255. So you can see here. So initially it starts from 000, goes maximum up to 255, 255, 255, which means all is 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. Okay. If it is 0, it means the slash, this part is actually controls the amount of IP addresses to be used, basically provide the range. So if I do total, I have 32 bits. So if I do 10, suppose, so 10 bits will be blocked and rest 22 bits are available for the changes. So how many change you can have? These many counts. So in an organization, if you have a people like 1 lakh, 2 lakh, so you can do like this. You can settle their range up to 10. So that you have total count of about 4 lakh up to 4 lakh. In which the first IP addresses, this 255.192, will be netmask and the last will be the broadcast IP, which is not used. Okay, these two IP addresses you cannot use. Just in between these two IP addresses, you can use hundreds of IP addresses. Okay. So here they have mentioned the first usable should be this one and the last usable IP address should be this one. So if you focus on this 254, this is the last IP address usable, not the 255, as it is uh, dedicated to broadcast IP and 00 is dedicated to the net mask. Got it?
Yes.
Let's go back to our Docker container. Okay. So basically we'll be look into this segment that how different containers are interlinked with each other. So if we go just by the definition, you can construct your own definition that the interconnection between the Docker container is actually the Docker networking, which is a fundamental aspect enabling communication. So unless and until there is no connection between the container, the data or the network or anything couldn't be intertransfer between them. So if I say that suppose when I built any microservices where I have 3, 4 containers with me, one for the front end, one for the back end, one for the database. So they has to talk with each other, right? So far, whatever the container we build, we didn't look into the networking part, whether they are connected or not connected. So if only if they are connected, then only it will allow you to have the host machine and the external resources can talk with each other. That's the main objective of Docker networking, just to have the communication between the different machines. Okay. A container has no information what kind of a network it is attached to, or whether their peers are also Docker workload or not. It means whatever the container you are creating, they don't have idea in which network they are, or any other container is being created, they too don't have any idea. They just work on the workload part. Okay. And this is the important part. A container only sees a network interface with IP addresses. If the IP addresses are interlinked, means one to another, then only IP addresses are gateway and the routing, DNS server and the other networking detail. So once you establish a network between two containers, these all things will get allocated to your containers so that your container can talk with each other. If there is no gateway, internet access wouldn't be there. If there is no routing, the channel of gateway to IP addresses won't be happening. Okay, DNS servers, a unique name would be given to your host machine and other networking detail would be required. So by default, when you create any run container, Docker create or Docker run, the container does not expose of its port to the outside world. What does it mean? It means whenever we create any container or run any container, by default, it does not have the access to the outside port. No. You must have seen that whenever we do port mapping, okay, to run any application, even in the case of Jenkins, what we did, we did docker run -p, okay, 8080 colon 8080 and the image name, which was Jenkins. So what is this? Why we have to do this part? Because even though by default Jenkins run in 8080, but it is not exposed to the outside world. Okay. This 8080 port number is not exposed. So we need to expose it. On which port number? On the dedicated one, whatever you want. Okay. If you want to expose it on the same port number, expose it. If you don't want to expose it on the same port number, change it. Okay. So that's how. But initially, this Jenkins is not exposed to the outside port. And this is the outside port for the Jenkins. Any confusion, any question? Understood the last line. Last one is also important. So it may be asked in the interview. They can trick you. They may ask you. So like, what is the port number of Jenkins that it is exposed to the Docker, exposed to the outside world when we do Docker run? So you can counter them. So initially it does not expose to the outer world. Okay. We need to expose it through port mapping, okay, which is -p, the port number which I want, colon the port number on which the application internally runs. Great. So this is how things work. Actually, what happens, let me take you back. Let's go a little. So if you look into the Docker networking document, it can go more depth, okay, based on the company's requirement. But so far, there are these many Docker networks, okay. The very first network is known as the bridge network. And bridge network is the default Docker network. So whenever you create any container, by default, all the containers are in this bridge. Remember, I'm talking about container, not the image. Image is initially not deployed on any of this network until unless only container deploy on the network. So the first network by default network is the bridge. Then comes your host network. So host network basically remove the network isolation between the container and the Docker host. Even this one bridge network is connected to the Docker host. Okay. So what do I want? A host machine is there in which all the bridge networks is get connected. But if I want to remove it and want to create my own, so Docker, this host bridge comes into the picture. So remove the network isolation, which means network is not isolated. Isolation means it's a singly isolated somewhere else. But this case, it's not isolation. Okay. And third one comes completely isolated, means it is not connected to any of the network. Sometimes what happens when you have local secrets like the credentials, important credentials for your database and all, and those are deployed on any of the container, then you can use this none, because such containers need not to be connected with the other container. So you can use none for that. Overlay IP VLAN and MAC VLAN, these are the advanced level because you required SWARM for that. There's a term Docker SWARM, which manages multi-Docker container. Okay. So if you have thousands of container and you want to overlay network between one to another, go with this one. Okay. Then IP VLAN. So VLAN is again VLAN is a kind of a network. If you want to connect with that such type of a network, you use this one. Okay. And MAC VLAN containers appear as a device on the host. So it appears all these containers are actually not the host, not a device. But if you use this MAC VLAN this network, then it appears as a device on the host network. Generally, host network consider them not as a device, but if you use this network, they will be considered as a device, not as a container. More on this one, you can read this one fully. Need not to go for the 1-2 year of experience. They won't ask you into this one more depth. You just need to know how many types of this one network are there, what is the use of network, and how do you work on the network, how do you create the network, how do you set up the network. So let's go and see. So this is how it looks like in actual default bridge network. So you have this host machine, okay, and default bridge. So what happens? There are two containers which is newly get created. So the moment the C1 and C2 container get created, it attach with the default bridge. Okay. So containers can communicate to each other. So once it get attached to the default bridge, it can contact or talk to each other. Container and host can communicate via bridge. So this bridge is a route for the communication. And container can only communicate by IP addresses, not by the container name. So remember, if I use the container name to talk between them, it won't happen. You required IP addresses. Okay, tell me one thing. If I have to check whether a remote machine is dead, working or not, what is the command do I use? Ping. Okay. If I want to check any system or any remote machine working or not, I'll use ping and the IP address. If it returns back, then it's okay, means the remote machine or the virtual machine is working. If it does not return any of the statement back, then it's not working. And the returning part happens only if they are in the same network. Mm. Did you get what I said?
Yes.
So I need to ping different machines to check whether they are working on the network or not. Let's do this. So if we look into our Docker containers, how many containers? Oh, a lot of containers here. What are we going to do? Let's see the images. Okay, we have Ubuntu in our system. Let's work on this Ubuntu. Okay. Do we have any container of Ubuntu? No, we don't have. So if I do Docker network ls, what it says that you get bridge network, you get host network. For now, just not see this one. Okay, we'll come. And there is a none. By default, you get 3 networks. This one I created long back. Okay. So by default, you get 3 networks: bridge, host, and none. Okay. So bridge one is the default network. So if I create any network, suppose I want to wait, let me stop couple of containers which are running. These two. So if I do Docker PS, what is this command Docker PS? What it does? Docker PS will show you all the running containers. For now, I'll start Docker. Say the time will start. Should have stopped. Docker stop. and the container ID. Now, if I do docker ps, I will be seeing no container. Good. And if I do docker ps-a, then it will show you all the available containers. Okay. These many available containers. Leave it. Right now, what I'm going to do, let's create couple of containers of Ubuntu. Okay. To work on that one. So if I do docker network inspect and the bridge name, sorry, the network name, bridge. So if I come here, it will give you a detailed information regarding this bridge network. Okay, a lot of things is here. You just have to see here, container part. You can see none of the container is inside this one bridge, right? Now what I'm going to do, I'll run a container docker run -b, or if you write -itd, it means IT means interactive mode and D means detach. Okay. So it will interact with the container as well as it will detach it with your console Docker CLI part.
Mm.
Okay. And then Ubuntu Ubuntu. Let's give it a name as well. What name should I give? Let's give C1. Okay. So Docker run. So it will be a Ubuntu container with the name of C1. Okay. Press enter. We got created. If I do docker ps, you can see a container is being up and running, right?
Mm.
Now if I
Yes.
do docker inspect docker network inspect bridge and press enter. So in the container section, earlier it was none, but now you can see there is a one container with the name of C1 is running in this bridge network. Got it?
Yes.
And the IP address that it is having is this 172.17.2.0/16. And this is coming from this one. Okay. The subnet started from this part and it goes till this one. So the first usable gateway IP addresses is 172.0.1. So the next IP address available one is 02, right?
Yes.
Now, if you see my organization has blocked these two. I cannot use 172. This will not be changed. The only change happened through these two network, right? And that's where the last one is getting selected. /16 means 16 bits is being blocked. Got it? So the only available is the other 16. So if I create another container, this one, another container with the name C2 and press enter. And if I do docker inspect bridge, now you can see there are two networks.
Mm.
You can see the IP address of this was 2. So this is now 3, which are belong to the same network. Okay, they are under the same network. So they can talk to each other. C1 can talk to C2, C2 can talk to C1. You can both can ping to each other. There will be no problem. Understood the default bridge network? Any question?
But how these containers goes inside that bridge network?
By default,
Okay.
is the default network. Okay.
Mm.
So what it says that whenever any container was created, there has to be a network allocated to every container. So they
Hmm.
kept bridge network as a default network so that whenever any new container will be created, it will be created under this bridge network. Okay. So this was the main decision by the Docker people, Docker organization. So instead of making them in isolated none, they could have done none as well. But they want that all the containers should be by default talk to each other. Now further, it's your decision if you want to make them isolate, if you want to provide them different type of network settings like MAC VLAN, IP VLAN type of, it's totally your decision. But default network is the bridge network that you will be getting. So the setup part, these are the Docker internal things that Docker does. Whenever any container creates it, it automatically allocates to the one network. Any question?
Mm.
Okay. So let's create. So far we have looked that all these are getting allocated to a default bridge network. If I want to get allocated on my network, okay, suppose I want to create my own network with the name of something something. Suppose these are what Ubuntu containers. So I want to create a network for Ubuntu UI. Okay. So what I'll do, the command is docker create Ubuntu. Suppose I want to create for the backend. So right. So what it happens, Docker network is common for creating any kind of a network. You just write the command network and this one. So see, I have not the any implies here like the command to create this specific type of network. So by default, it will be create a bridge network. Okay, bridge network, but it will be your bridge, not the one they provide. If I want that it should be created on host, none, then I'll give driver and whatever the kind of name you want to give your network. So for bridge, I can write bridge, I cannot write bridge. I can do none also to separate it from the rest of the container bridge. I can do host as well. Okay. A Mac VLAN, IP VLAN, whatever you can do. So right now I'm just going with the bridge one. And now if I do Docker network ls, so you can see I have a Ubuntu backend network, which is by default got the bridge network. If I do the hyphen driver, I can set up this to any of this network. Any question?
Mm.
Now, next time if I'll create another container with the name of C3, it should get this network rather than this network. This is the default one. So I want to set up my container on my network, not the default network. So the command for that one is docker run. Okay, what kind of run I want? Hyphen name. This time I'm giving C3. Okay. IT interactive detached mode. And then you need to give them hyphen network. What kind of a network you want? On which network you want your C3 to be set up? I want this network. Your network name, paste it, and the image name. That's it. Press enter. Now if I do docker ls, sorry, docker ps. So I have 3 running container with the name of C1, C2, and C3. Whereas C3 is in my branch, right? My bridge network. So if I do docker network inspect, what is my bridge? This is the name.
So
And press
C3
enter.
will go into a new bridge, not in the C1 C2 bridge.
No, C1, C2 is the container.
Okay.
Okay. Bridge is the network.
Okay.
So you set up your container on network.
Hmm.
So initially I set up C1, C2 on which network? Default network, which was bridge
Hmm.
with the name of bridge, and the network is also bridge. This is name is also bridge and the driver is also bridge.
Okay.
Okay. But the C3 which I created now, it
Hmm.
is a bridge network, but it is my network. It is not the
Okay.
default network. So
Yeah.
you can see the
Personalized
name of
network.
personalized network, which every organization does.
Hmm.
And the bridge network is the most used network. Only for some of the container which uses some secrets, they are detached from any network so that no attack or no hacker can attack those critical network.
Hmm.
But these are like backend part, front end part, this should be connected with the network. So generally people consider bridge network as the most easiest and the demanded one. So I have set up my C3 network, C3 container in this Ubuntu backend bridge network, which I created previously. Any question? If I want to create another container in this bridge, that is Ubuntu backend, to use this Ubuntu backend, so I'll just use the same docker run hyphen name, and next container name would be, remember all these container are Ubuntu container, okay? And press enter. Now if I do docker inspect Ubuntu backend, you can see we have 2 more containers, but these are not under the default bridge. These are under my bridge. And if you see their IP addresses, see, it's .3.2. But remember this part, the moment you change the network, this one get changed. Initially it was 17, right? See, 172, 17 for one network. So under one network, I have total, if you have this two means 18, 16 available, which means how many count? 64,000 IP addresses you can assign to this single default bridge. Again, I created a new bridge, and how many I have? Again, I have 64,000 approx. The count I'm saying from this. Mhm. How do I get the number 64,000? Any idea? So if you see, there it is. Here it is. The first one was blocked, 192, and here 72. So the only, and here it was 16, which means first 16-bit is totally blocked. So I have total count available, means total IP addresses I can create in one bridge is 65,536. Approximately, just remember 65,000. Okay. Sometimes they ask, because if you worked quite a lot with IP addresses, you get acquainted with, if it is 16, you have approximately 65,000 count available with you. So with this one network, I can create 65,000 IP addresses in this single, which means 65,000 container you can create with one network, one default network or one own your network. Any question? So here C4 can talk with C3. C3 can talk with C4, but C3 want to talk with C1 and C2. C can't do because they are in the different network. Any question? So this was the default bridge concept which we looked into it, and this is the user-defined bridge concept. The C3 part we created in the user-defined. Okay, and this is the name of your bridge, net1. So what are the benefits? Possible to archive isolation of a container. Suppose I created this net in this net1 bridge, I created C3 and C4. So these are totally isolated with the C1 and C2. C1, C2 can talk with each other because they are in the default network. C3, C4 can talk with each other because they are in net1. And there is isolation between these two networks. So C1 and C2 can communicate to each other and a host. Host means the main one via bridge default. C3 can't communicate to C1. This C3 cannot communicate to C1 and C1 and C2, but can communicate to the host via. So this C2 can communicate to the host, but you cannot communicate to the C3 and C4. So this is how all this actually works. So if I want C1 to get communicate with C3, I have to first talk with my host network, and then I have to go with this one. So host network is used for that one. If two containers are on two different bridge, you can talk with the host network. Create a host network between these two containers.
Okay.
So we need to understand how network works, how we can manipulate in the network. Okay. These are the command that we looked into. Docker network ls to list all the network. Docker network inspect bridge, we looked into that one. Docker network create, we created one network. Driver bridge, okay. Then Docker network inspect network name. Our network we have inspected, whatever the network you create. Then Docker run name of the container -itd. We looked into that one as well. ITD for IT for interactive, D for detach. It means your container will continue running. If you don't use this one, your container will get down. The moment it created, it shut down. To make it running, you need to use -itd. Network name, whatever the network you want to deploy your container. Then Docker container connect. So if I want to connect my container into one of these specific bridge, or sorry, one of these specific network, then I'll use this connect one, which I just used. You guys see. Any question? Do I have something else? If I want to disconnect, you can use the disconnector, or if you want to remove your networks, you just use RM for the removal of your network. Remove, delete. That's it. Any questions?
No,
No.
I think I'll re-watch it and I'll come back to you on networks.
Yeah, sure. Okay, let's do couple of interview questions. Okay, and let's see how they ask the questions. This one I shared with you, no? Docker commands.
Yes.
So almost 90% all the commands we have used. Okay, if you see the network, to list all the network, to create a network, to remove a network, to remove all the unused network prone you can use. Same goes for the volume as well. If the volume is not in use Docker volume prone. Okay. troubleshooting, Docker Hub. Okay. One more class we will do on a multi-container part, which is the Docker Compose. Okay. Though that is not being asked as an intermediate level, but it's still one class we will cover into that one. And then we'll be done with Docker.
Mhm.
And we'll jump into our this one. Let's see these questions. Okay. Let's see whether you guys can understand or not. So it's all scenario based question, which is most demanded. Okay, they'll be give you a scenario and you have to tell what are the approaches you are going to take. The first question is that you have a simple HTML, CSS, JavaScript web application. Walk me through the complete process of containerizing it and making it available for others to download and run. So what are the things you can do? I created my, what you guys can tell me? I have an application with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and I want to make it downloadable and run for you guys. So what I have to do first? First, I need to create a file, which is named as Docker file, right? Then I need to create a Docker image.
Then Docker container.
Yeah, container for the local. Okay, if you want to test it, create a container. But image is the first part. I'll create an image. I'll do the Docker container to test whether it is running or not. Once it is running well, I will tag that Docker image and push it on the Docker Hub. Once I'll push in the Docker Hub, you guys can, it will be available for the download and you guys can take that image and run it on your system. Use Docker run command.
Hmm.
So the expected answer they'll be expecting you should cover the Docker file creation, Docker build to create the Docker image, Docker run to create the Docker container, Docker push to push the container into the Docker Hub, and how you can pull. Pull is very easy. Docker pull and the container name. Oh, sorry, image name. That's it. Got it? It's not difficult.
Yes.
Second question is, you are trying to run the containerized web application. Okay, this is the containerized web application, which is running on the port 8080 on your local. But you are getting an error that this port 8080 is already in use. How would you troubleshoot and resolve this?
We can use the other port number.
That's it. Port management.
Yes.
Okay. So you can directly say that I will change my container port number. Okay.
Hmm.
And try to do on the other port number. Or if any container is already running on this port 8080 and that container need not to be used, I'll remove that container so that this port 8080 is available and I can use it. Okay, if container is not using port 8080, any other container can use it. Hmm. So your development team has a Node.js application, work fine locally, but need run consistently across all the development, staging, and the production. How would the Docker resolve this one? So see what it is saying that it works fine locally. जो पहला क्वेश्चन डॉकर में हम लोगों ने डिस्कस किया था कि मेरे सिस्टम में अच्छा काम कर रहा है बट स्टेजिंग और डिप्लॉयमेंट पे खराब हो जा रहा है. That is the main question with which the Docker evolves or Docker come into the picture. So यहाँ पर भी डेवलपमेंट का यही क्वेश्चन है कि Node.js application working fine locally, but the moment you run across the deployment, staging, and the production, it is not working consistently. So how Docker will solve this problem? So you will containerize this Node.js application. Okay. The moment you containerize it, it get its own OS, right? And then you can have the Docker network between them, a single network with which they can talk, each application can talk with each other. And ultimately, we'll have a consistent Docker Node.js application, which will be run throughout the environment. whether it is development, staging, or production. So what I expected answer they'll be expecting that Docker ensure the same runtime environment. Okay, because in Docker file we mentioned the runtime environment. Dependencies, same dependencies. Here it is not running consistently because some dependencies might not be available in the development staging or the production environment. But same dependency will always be available in your Docker file across all the OS. You can run your application in all the OS, whether it is Linux operating or Mac OS, anything. Eliminating it works on my machine issue. This is the issue with which Docker can come into the picture. Got it?
Yes.
Couple of more intermediate level questions. Okay. Performance, just go through this one. Okay. Data persistence problem. So this is the first interview question. Okay. There is another one which is in with more detail. Okay. It contains the Docker file creation as well. For example, suppose you have a simple Node.js application with the following structure. This is the structure of the Node.js application. Okay. Your app run on the port. What is this? Your app run on the port 3000. Create a Docker file for that one. Okay. They will give you these things. These are the basic things. कि base image क्या होना चाहिए docker.js और उसका version 16. Install the dependencies, copy the file, expose the port and run the application. So simple एक docker file बना देंगे from node 16. ठीक है 16 इन्होंने बोल दिया है 16 alpine you use it. Then set the working directory, copy all the package. Okay, JSON package is being copied separately. JSON file is copied separately. Rest the file is copied separately. Run command is used. So the moment this application runs, this command will get executed. npm ci ---- production. Okay, it depends on you. If they have not given, run the application. For application running, you use this command, run. Then copy all the files. Copy dot means copy everything to my working directory. Expose port, we'll exposing on 3000. So whenever anyone take it, they will get the port number with the 3000 default port number. And then start the application. So cmd means the command. npm to start. npm start is the command with which it will start. That's it. Now, why we use Alpine? Because it is smaller size, so it will have a little effect on your CPU, not the much. Then copy all the packages for the better layer. Caching, they may ask you, why did you use the copy? Why did you use npm ci? Okay. Then use the execution from the CMD. So the moment your application is get deployed on the machine, it will start it automatically.
What is
In the same way,
NPM?
npm is a package manager node for Node.js application. Okay. You have web-based application now. So sometimes the backend part use Node.js. So Node.js comes with npm node package manager. Full form is node package manager. So if you have this npm in your system, then only you can run your application, node application. Otherwise you can't. For example, for Python, what do you need to have? Pip.
Yes.
So to install that one, or you can use the Python command as well. Okay. But to install any application, you have to have pip in your system. So that is again a package manager for Python. So here for running the Python application, I'm using Python. For running the node application, I'm using npm. And that's why I told you to create 3, 4, 5, 6 Docker file by yourself, and you will understand of different programming. One I created for this Node.js. Okay. You may ask for the Node.js. You may ask for the Python application file. Okay. Create a Docker file for the Python application file not found. Delete हो गया क्या? Okay. And then there are a little bit more advanced level of Docker file. You can go through this one. Okay. The only advanced is this one, condition part. What is the condition? Then some more legacy application migration. Okay. Just go through all this thing, see how it works, see the benefits. Okay. यहाँ पर git file वगैरह भी use हुआ है. Again, advanced level. So you won't be don't expect they will asking you the advanced level. They'll just check whether you are acquainted, whether you can write simple Docker file or not in the interviews. Okay, whether you can answer that the Docker file that you have written, what are the each command used for. Okay. So I'll share with you these two interview document along with the Docker command. Okay. And my videos will always be available. Let me stop the recording.